my fellow investors, welcome back to the Newcomer Investor Channel, where we uncover the story behind great businesses and make investing accessible and fun for everyone. I'm your host, Anthony, and I'm very, very excited for today's episode. Now, if you've been following the show for some time, you know that I am a very enthusiastic shareholder and customer of EQB. In fact, it's one of my fantastic 5 stock holdings. These are my 5 highest conviction stocks, businesses that have achieved incredible long-term results and have truly excellent management. Now, speaking of excellent management, today I am thrilled and honored to welcome on this show Mahima Poddar, who serves as the Senior Vice President and Group Head Personal Banking. Mahima leads EQ Bank, which is Canada's leading digital bank, the single-family mortgage businesses, the decumulation lines of business in reverse mortgages and CSV lending, marketing, and the distribution of deposit products through the financial planning channel. This conversation is going to be so valuable for our community of investors as we uncover the story behind EQB. Mahima, I'm so excited to talk to you today. Thank you for your time. How are you doing this evening?
Fantastic. It's such a pleasure to be on the show. And thank you so much for the support for the EQB stock.
Absolutely. Very enthusiastic about the stock. The first thing I like to do when I interview a guest is getting to know a bit about them. So to get started, could you please give us an overview of your career journey and what led you to your current role at EQB?
Yeah, fantastic. So I started my career in management consulting at the Boston Consulting Group here in Toronto. So I was there for 8 years across North America, and I also spent a few years in London. Really enjoyed the problem solving aspect of the job and having a seat at the table with quite senior clients that were making decisions, and this idea of being able to impact the future of these businesses and what was being offered to the customer. That passion was something I looked for in my next role. And so I actually joined Equitable Bank right out of BCG. And what I really liked about Equitable was that it was a smaller entrepreneurial organization that had that family feel. And the most important thing for me is it gave me a platform to build new products and to really challenge the status quo. And that notion of being able to add impact for the betterment of people is something that's always been really important to me. And so I've been at Equitable now for the last 9 years and loving every second of it. And I will say that building EQ Bank has been a particular highlight in my career.
Love it. That's an awesome intro. And I think what you said about shaking up the status quo, we'll definitely be talking a lot about that, right, in the coming minutes. Diving right into EQB now, often when we talk about it, we hear the term challenger bank. Could you please elaborate on what is the challenger bank concept?
So the challenger bank concept is really a mindset, right? And it embodies every single person that works here. It's the idea that we're uncomfortable with the status quo when it is disadvantaging Canadians. And so when you look at the Canadian banking industry, it's very highly concentrated. 90% of deposits and assets in Canada sit with the large banks. If you actually consider the consolidation that's happened, so RBC with HSBC and now National Bank with CWB, that consolidation is further driving concentration of our assets and deposits in a few players. And I think that's to the detriment of Canadians. So if you look at our banking industry in Canada, it is the most profitable of any developed nation in the world, which essentially means there is large pockets of profitability. It's generating ROE for the big banks. But again, it's at the detriment of Canadians. It means they're paying higher fees, higher interest rates. And so the point of a challenger bank is to disrupt the status quo and to look at things differently with the idea that there is more value being passed on to the end customer. So we have embodied that concept of a challenger bank and disrupting the status quo to enrich the lives of Canadians as our philosophy here at Equitable and at EQ Bank. And hopefully what you've seen is every product we launch has this quality that it's better for Canadians and it's significantly better than what's otherwise available on the market.
100%. Yeah, that's what drew me to EQ Bank, like from the very beginning, right? As I'm speaking as a customer now, right? So awesome. Love that. We'll definitely talk more about it in terms of the products, right? Moving forward. Let's pivot just to EQ Bank specifically. Now, as Canada's first digital bank, obviously it's a pioneer bank, right? Could you walk us through that journey from kind of the start of building the brand, and what were some of the early challenges and early breakthroughs and victories?
Yeah. So early challenges, I would say we were very keen to get to market quickly because we knew that there was a broader need for lower cost banking that had attractive interest rates in the Canadian landscape. And so early days, we outsourced a lot of our development to vendors, and we were looking for out of the box solutions that would allow us to get to market quickly. But I would say that there was a heavy reliance on partners and vendors to be able to get to market. And so one of the challenges was not having full control on the experience, and being somewhat pigeonholed into what we could deliver. We eventually overcame that by really investing in building a native application and taking control of the client experience and the design so that we could come to market with exactly what we wanted to. But I would say early days, that was a bit of a challenge. The second challenge was that we really weren't prepared for the growth and the scale that we experienced so early on. It was actually overwhelming. Like we
Mhm.
had people sleeping under their desk early days
Oh,
just trying
wow.
to keep up with the demand that we saw on EQ Bank when we launched. So it was a bit of a blessing and also a challenge to keep up. And how we dealt with that was we took a bit of a pause so that we can move our infrastructure to the cloud. So we were the first bank in Canada to move to the cloud, and that was incredibly important for us because it has given us the scalability and the flexibility to now keep up with demand without any further pauses. Another breakthrough was just how receptive the market was to our product offering. People were hungry for this idea of no fee banking, where you're actually making
Mhm.
money for essentially giving the bank an asset that they can go then turn around and lend. And this was the first time that you really saw an option where you could earn interest on what are effectively like checking deposits. So, phenomenal breakthrough in terms of just the receptivity of the product in the market and how much our customers did for us from a word of mouth and advocacy perspective. And I'd say the other kind of breakthrough that came with that was just our realization on what a powerful product platform we had. And once we figured out the storytelling behind the brand and invested in real brand awareness, the uptake on EQ Bank has just been magnificent. But actually putting the dollars behind the brand investment was also a very important breakthrough for us.
I see. Okay. I mean, I love what you said about it being an issue to have too much demand. Obviously, it is. It's a challenge, right? But it's a nice problem to have, right?
It's
Having people.
definitely better than the opposite.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. And what you said about the advocacy too. I really see that it's, to me, it seems like the type of bank that has kind of a like a diehard, hardcore fan base, right? Like some of us who like the product are actually, telling everyone. Like myself personally, I'm trying to get everyone on it. Like my family, my wife, like we all have EQ Bank accounts. So yeah,
It's
no, it's
Well, our strongest marketing message is actually word of mouth. We
yeah.
all in our referral program, which is also unheard of in traditional banking apps, and we get close to 60 new referrals every day. So new
Wow.
sign are coming from referrals every day, which is really meaningful because it's the highest quality customers that we could ask for. On the advocacy point, the other thing that we've seen is before we even had a social media team, whenever people were putting questions out or any sense of like disbelief that EQ Bank was too good to be true, it was so energizing to see our customers would come to our rescue time and time again. It's like
Mhm.
almost like they were working for us, just how
Yeah.
well they represented the brand and how passionate they were about what we were offering.
100%. I mean, that's a great segue for our next question, because I want to talk now a little bit about product, right? Now, as an investor, I'm super passionate about financial literacy, right? So I've been at it for years, and a side effect of that is that I love to analyze all the different types of products on the market, to find whatever I can that can optimize my savings, right? Finding the best type of banks and bank accounts. So naturally, I was drawn to EQ Bank, and that's when I kind of started talking about it with everyone that I knew. So can you talk to our listeners a little bit about EQ Bank's product differentiation compared to what we see offered by the big six? I know you've talked a little bit about it, but let's let's get in more details on the type of accounts that you have, including the ones that came out recently.
Yeah, and I think like what's important to remember is our ethos is all about disrupting the status quo and giving more back to customers. So we will not launch every possible financial product out there, but anything we launch will be fundamentally better for customers from a value, transparency, convenience perspective. So to start, our marquee product has really been the EQ personal account, which we think is akin to a high interest checking account. So the genesis behind this product is because most people keep a savings account and a checking account. When you think about it, that construct is entirely artificial. There is absolutely no need for a savings account to not be able to transact. But the big banks have created this construct because by offering transaction capabilities on checking account, they can afford to not only not pay interest, but they're actually charging fees on that account. So the personal account is a real game changer in the Canadian landscape because, again, you're earning up to 4% interest. There's absolutely no fees on the account, and all the transactions are unlimited and completely free. So we were actually the first bank in Canada to offer free e-transfers, and we're actually really glad with what's happened because only after we started offering free e-transfers has it become more common among the other banks. And so before that, everyone was paying up to a few dollars to send an e-transfer, at least $1. And so that's actually been a massive savings of billions of dollars for Canadians on the back of EQ Bank. So the personal account is a great example. Another great example is the EQ Bank card that we launched. So the EQ Bank card is, again, this idea of a hybrid debit and credit card in that you can use the card to access cash at any ATM in Canada. And the beauty of the card is that regardless of what ATM you charge, you're not paying any fees. So EQ Bank will reimburse any fees that other banks charge you for using their ATM. And we, of course, don't charge you any fees. No longer does somebody have to walk an extra 3 blocks or 4 blocks to find their bank brand ATM or an EQ Bank brand ATM, for example. You can use any ATM that's around you. And so that's been a huge point of convenience for our customers. Also, the benefits of this card are that it's actually a MasterCard. And so you can use it in store or online without any issues, which is actually quite difficult to use a debit card in Canada online. And you're earning cash back on the purchases, which is also obviously not available on debit. And my actual favorite feature of the card is that it has no premium on the foreign exchange. So if you're traveling internationally and you're using the EQ Bank card, you're actually paying the spot rate, whereas the competitors are all charging between 1 to 2.5% on top of the foreign exchange fee, which really adds up when you're traveling. So the EQ Bank card has been actually a game changer for me because I no longer worry about converting currency when I go traveling. I used to actually hold a bunch of international bank accounts, like one in the US and one in the UK, and I've shut them all down because this is such a better solution. We've had so many fantastic product launches, so I can go on. Another one that I'm really proud of is our latest major product launch, which is the Notice Savings Account. And so what this product does is it offers customers very high interest rates with the caveat that they either need to provide 10 days notice before they can access the cash or 30 days notice, and then 30-day notice would get you a higher interest rate. But so many people have been prepared to provide that notice if it means they can earn more on their cash guaranteed. And there's been some really lovely use cases of the product. We've actually had a few customers tell us how helpful it's been with impulse spending, which is particularly for people that have ADHD. And so it's actually become quite a compelling tool for people to manage their savings when they do have that impulse spending habit. And so we're actually just so proud and happy that we could help them with that aspect of their lives.
Yeah, that's incredible. I never thought of that, but that's actually, that totally makes sense, right?
Yeah, it wasn't part of our use case thinking, but it can be such a massive problem for people. And so, it's fantastic that not only are they earning such great interest, but they're spending less on things they don't actually want to be spending on. I'd say the other thing that's really different about EQ Bank is we have a strong partnership lens. So our philosophy is that we will continue to own and develop the areas where we are the strongest on, so things like deposits and payments. But for the other services that our customers need, we believe in partnering with best of breed offerings. And so, for example, on international transfers, we have this partnership with Wise that is fully integrated into the app, so it's seamless for the customer. But it is a significantly cheaper way to send money internationally. So our research shows that it's up to 11 times cheaper to use Wise than it is to use the large banks in Canada. And it's instant, it's transparent, it's so easy. And the added benefit of using EQ Bank is that the international transfer funds immediately. And because we do so much volume with Wise, we're actually passing on our volume discount to the customer. So using Wise on EQ Bank is actually cheaper than going directly to Wise. So it's just like a phenomenal partnership.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. I mean, everything you just described, like to some people, sometimes they won't think, like, let's say for them, like using the card internationally, right? They'll think, oh, 1%, it's not that much, but it adds up if you travel like more than one, you know what I mean? Like
it adds up so quickly. And the thing is, for our customer, they really do care. Like they're very careful about having control over their finances, making sure they're making smart decisions. And so it's really powerful to have a partner like EQ Bank to know that we're constantly looking out for you in the background, and you don't have to stress out about all the gotcha moments that exist otherwise.
Exactly. You know, you're doing the best that you can for customers at this particular time, right? And that's really, it's fundamentally a very different philosophy, and that's why, you know, we all appreciate EQ Bank, right? It's a big deal. So, and then this thing about, like you said, the artificial, you know, checking versus savings account. Like, I mean, I grew up sometimes wondering, why is this even the thing? But every other bank at the time that I knew had it like that. So I was kind of like, I guess that's how it is, and I can't do anything about it. And then when I found out about it, the EQ Bank account, I was like, oh, so it can be different. And then I'm wondering, why is everyone else still keeping it the way it is? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think it's like the Canadian banking industry is really an oligopoly. And so if one bank makes a move and it's better for their balance sheet or their profit, every other large bank is going to follow, right? We've
Yeah.
seen it happen over and over again. And then what happens is you have these massive back books that the big banks are managing. And so to make a change that's beneficial for the customer actually becomes so expensive for them that they're really not going to be able to justify it. Which it is so important that there's players like EQ Bank in the market and there's competition and innovation, because it's the only way that we're going to be able to break this cycle and get better options in Canada.
Yeah, adding that competition. I think adding that kind of that fire to everyone else, right? It's so important, like you mentioned, to get them to think and hopefully to try to make the whole industry better for everyone. Okay, now let's pivot to customers, because we kind of talked a little bit about it, but let's have a bit more. What does your typical customer profile look like at EQ Bank? And then a follow-up question to that: what kind of strategies do you have to broaden that demographic, or to, I guess, make the relationship with the existing one deeper? If that makes sense.
Yeah, so we call our customers aspirants. And so these are people that aspire to do better. They are knowledgeable and really care about their finances. They tend to be quite disciplined. They're looking for high return on investment on their decisions. They generally are very responsible in terms of building wealth and setting up their households and their families for as much comfort as is possible. I will say that what we found is that these customers can find it stressful and have tension around, am I doing enough? Do I know enough? What am I leaving on the table? And so that's why we've again found EQ Bank to be a really good solution for the tension and the stress that these customers are going through. From a demographic perspective, we are targeting aspirants that are typically between the ages of 25 years old and 45 years old. They're above average income. They live in urban and suburban markets. But I think the beauty of EQ Bank is that it's such a universal value proposition that although this is our target market, we're universally attractive to anybody that's looking to get a better shake out of banking. In terms of new demographics, our focus is more to really understand the deeper needs of the aspirant and go deeper with them. So one of the things you'll see us focus on more over time is how do we further reduce that stress and tension that aspirants have around building and growing their wealth alongside everyday banking. But one new demographic that we are about to launch with that we're very excited about is small business banking. So actually next week, we will be in market with our small business offering, which really continues to bring to life that EQ Bank value proposition, no fees, completely digital onboarding, attractive interest, some of the great features that you're used to, like high rate GICs, that seamless experience. And one of the great benefits is that you can see your personal and business accounts in one place. You can easily transfer money between them because people don't really think about their business and their like personal lives separately the way that the bank construct has created. And so it's one business owner, two buckets of money. And so we're giving them the flexibility to see everything in one place and move around money from those entities seamlessly.
Love that. Yeah, more flexibility, that's always a great thing, and more common sense approach too, right? So important for everyone. Okay, one thing I want to talk about here, and you'll actually find this funny. It's pretty cool. So 2024, obviously, it's kind of a milestone year, right, for EQ Bank. You launched that Second Chance campaign with Eugene and Dan Levy. That was seen by so many Canadians. I love that ad. I love Schitt's Creek. So when I saw that, I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. But fun fact for you. So my father, who's a little bit outside of the aspirants demographic, he was a Big Six client for 10 years. And he saw the ad, and then he was like, "Wow, I should make an EQ Bank account," and he did, which is I know, it's so cool. So anyway, I from my perspective of my family, I feel like the ad was a big success. But I wanted to ask internally, how did you feel about the campaign and the results? How did all that go?
Yeah, I mean, I'll say a couple of things is one thing is the aspirant customer is really a mindset. And so 100%, I bet your dad fits into that category.
He does.
And I'm a big fan of the Second Chance campaign as well with Dan and Eugene Levy. And fun fact is Eugene Levy actually helped us tweak and write the ad so that it was much funnier. And so that was really special to have that special touch there. But we've been incredibly happy with both the Second Chance campaign for English Canada, and then we ran another campaign, Deuxième Chance, across Quebec with another set of, it was a mother-daughter celebrity. Again, like just the awareness that we've been able to generate with those campaigns. EQ Bank has grown over 30% year over year. We're now over 485,000 customers, close to 9 billion in deposits. And the campaigns have really helped to improve just the awareness and consideration of EQ Bank. And we're actually really jazzed that Dan and Eugene Levy are also going to be hosting the Emmys on September 15th. And so look out for some EQ Bank ads to support their efforts. I think it was a great way for us to get the story out about EQ Bank and this idea that there's better options than perhaps what you have been living with your whole life. Because when your parents would have set you up with your first bank account, which many Canadians still have, there wasn't great options like EQ Bank out there.
Yeah, no, I love that. I mean, honestly, I work in comms, right? So I'm always looking at ads and kind of analyzing CO, and it was perfect. Like the storytelling and obviously using this particular set of actors, I just thought it was splendid. So
right, and it's so important for Canadians also. And I think that the thing about Dan and Eugene Levy is they will only support brands they actually believe in, and so they were so impressed with what we were doing on EQ Bank. So it was actually a really like special partnership with them.
Yeah, the word I was looking for is authenticity. It felt authentic. Like it didn't feel like just two random people that we asked to get to do an ad, but it felt like they actually believe what's in the ad, right? So that's what I thought was really, really nice. Awesome. Okay, let's I guess pivot now to technology a little bit. So EQB obviously is recognized as a leader in integrating tech within its banking solutions. Notably, you mentioned earlier, right, the first Canadian bank hosted on the cloud. But for people not in the industry, it's not always easy to, I guess, understand the significance of that or just the inner workings of accomplishing these things. So could you, I guess, talk a little bit about the benefits that having this technology brings to EQ Bank? And I guess, how does that continue to influence your operations and your customer experience?
Yeah, so being cloud-based gives us two big benefits. The first one I would say is it's lower cost. So we don't have the need to purchase on-prem hardware, the maintenance cost that goes with that. And the biggest advantage from a cost perspective is that we can scale up immediately versus having to have extra infrastructure on premises to deal with anticipated demand. The benefit here is that we can continue to take those lower costs versus what the big banks have and return that to customers in the ways of higher interest or no fees, lower foreign exchange spreads. And so that's a really important part of our value proposition. I'd say the second big advantage is just the speed that we can get to market on. So it really improves our development pace, how quickly we can get features out to market. And that, again, is a really valuable component because we are much faster to market after we get customer feedback or we have an insight that we want to develop into a great product. The time that it takes us to launch to market is significantly lower than what you would see at the big banks that are dealing with, at times, quite antiquated and legacy technology stacks that are incredibly difficult to innovate on.
Right. Okay. Yeah. No, that makes sense. It's true. Yeah. No, people outside of banking don't think about that, but the costs, all the cost benefits is to the benefit of the customers because, like you said, you give it back afterwards, right? And then the speeds too. It's yeah.
It's
No.
branches, right? So by not supporting a massive national branch network, our operating costs are so much lower. And then what that allows us to do is translate it into value that the customer actually cares about. So for
Mhm.
not having to maintain thousands of branches across the country, we can turn that into lower fees or no fees actually, and better return to the customer.
Right. Yeah. No, it's a game changer. Well, I guess that's a segue into my next question, but I wanted to ask, obviously, so you've established the firm as very forward thinking, particularly in this industry, right? But what do you see as the future of digital banking in Canada? And what are you doing, I guess, today to position EQ Bank as a leader for this evolution?
So, as you may have seen, we've been very outspoken advocates for open banking,
Mhm.
or now it's being called consumer directed finance for many years. And I'm so excited to see that it seems to be finally coming to market. But open banking will help keep financial information safer. It's going to provide so much choice at a lower cost for Canadians. While I think the biggest implication to EQ Bank is it'll foster a much needed landscape for improved competition. So what open banking does is provides access to or gives ownership of data to the actual consumer, regardless of which bank or financial institution the data is sitting with. And so now if you think about all of the obstacles to switching banking or to kind of getting the best service because data is sitting in a couple of different places, with open banking we can safely bring that together so the customer has the best options available to them without all of the friction of having to switch entities or move over all of their information. So I think open banking is going to be huge, and I think EQ Bank is particularly well established to take advantage of it because we've already proven our desire to help the customer. We have 485,000 customers. We're the seventh largest lender in Canada. And so I think that positions us quite well to continue to innovate with the open banking platform.
I guess a follow up just on that is I think sometimes people don't think too much about the regulatory landscape of things, right? But EQB, in a way, is not only doing things good for customers, but also pushing on the regulatory side, like you said, for the open banking. Because sometimes it's not just about pushing the industry; it's also pushing the government, right, on making changes that is sometimes it's too much to fathom for the industry, right? But it's all for the benefit of the people, right?
And I think you need players like Equitable or EQ Bank that are pushing on these agendas because if you think about the large incumbents in the industries or the big banks, open banking isn't going to help them, right? It's actually quite expensive for them to put in place and potentially risks them losing some business to new innovative
Mhm.
offerings. And so if you don't have players advocating for the customer, you end up in this kind of stalemate situation where the big banks have so much lobbying power that we would just remain status quo because it's so expensive and painful for them to get there.
Makes sense. Yeah. Okay. One next topic, kind of also related to some of that. But so I represent, right, a community of thousands of investors who are all eager to listen to this conversation. But a big topic of debate that comes all the time, because all of us Canadian investors, we own bank stocks, at least one bank, right? And so the one thing that everyone is always fighting about is in an increasingly digital world, what do you see as the long-term advantages and challenges of having a digital-only model compared to the traditional branch-based banks kind of model, particularly in terms of customer service and trust?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think that's a great question. I think the biggest advantages are really the cost advantages that I talked about. Like it's incredibly expensive to be maintaining a branch network that is more and more unused. So you have these empty branches, expensive real estate, maintenance costs, labor costs that are going into these branches that don't actually have great payback. But I do agree with you that trust and service are incredibly important components to a banking relationship. And I would argue that branches are not the way to get there. We at EQ Bank believe immensely in offering fantastic customer service, even if we are a digital entity. It's actually more important for us to have phenomenal service because the barriers to consider a digital bank are so high if you don't feel like you can get solutions to your problems or questions. So for EQ Bank, we are committed to a Canadian-based call center. We call it the customer care team. So they're all based in Canada. Our hours are 8 a.m. to 12 a.m. midnight EST, 7 days a week. And our goals that we set for the team, which they continue to hit, are very, like they're best in class and considerably better than big banks. So one of the goals that we have is that we need to pick up 80% of our calls within 20 seconds. We hit that month.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's such a different experience because you are reaching a human almost immediately. That team member is in Canada. They are committed to helping you find a solution. And they're just fantastic people that really care about the customer. And so I agree that customer service is critical, but there is other ways to achieve it. We also see a big trend in people wanting to do more through chat. And so you'll see that EQ Bank is leading on the chat front as well. And you'll be able to do more and more self-service through a chat mechanism if you prefer that to phone. And then obviously kind of delightful phone service if that's your preferred route. From a trust perspective, I'm not sure that branches really increase that trust. I think they're like, especially a few decades ago, that sense of familiarity and knowing your branch manager was an important element, but it was really the relationship with the branch staff versus the branch. And from a trust perspective, I think it's incredibly important that we, like Equitable Bank has been around for more than 50 years. We're a Schedule I bank. We're governed by the exact same supervisory and regulatory frameworks as the big banks in Canada. And we have the power of CDIC insurance behind us. And so there's this comfort that if anything were to go wrong in a stress environment, you have the guarantee of the Canadian government on your funds to return that cash within 24 hours. And so I think those are the elements that are far more impactful to trust. And those are the ones that we lean on. And we have zero conviction that a branch network is required for either service or trust.
Wow. Well, I agree. I mean, I'm sorry. I have to go back just to that point you said about the 80% of calls picked up in 20 seconds. I, I'm not going to name any names, but I've had experiences with another bank. I've waited 25 to 30 minutes to speak to someone on the phone. And then, by the way, the music wasn't very good either. Like, the music to make you, right? I mean, yeah, just terrible experience. So anyway, 80% within 20 seconds. I didn't realize it was like that. That's an amazing goal.
Like this happened to me with one of the big banks. Is my debit card got stolen in a taxi cab. And I couldn't report it stolen on the app. So I called into the call center. I got transferred. It took me an hour to get transferred to the fraud department. Then I was on hold for 4 hours with the fraud department. In that time that I was on hold, $5,000 had been taken out
Oh
of account.
no. Yeah.
Uh, and then, I mean, the bank obviously reimbursed me, but
Yeah.
they just picked up the phone. So I literally sat there listening to the annoying music for 4 hours.
Yeah.
They could save themselves like $5,000.
Wow. No, that's insane. Well, I'm really happy that I didn't know about this goal of the 80%, but that's a fantastic goal. That 20 seconds is a
Yeah,
game changer.
I mean, try us out.
Yeah.
I'm confident it'll work.
Yeah. No, I will. That's incredible. Okay. Well, with that said, EQB, like now I'm putting on my shareholder hat for a second. EQB delivered obviously the best stock market performance among North American listed banks in the last 10 years, which is an amazing achievement. So it's been an amazing last 10 years. And I want to ask, what are you excited about for the business in the years ahead?
I mean, we have performed very strongly so far, as you indicated, consistently generated annual ROE in the range of 15 to 17%. We also successfully completed our 5-year plan to increase the common share dividend at 20 to 25% per year. And I think what is really powerful about all of this is that we have such a strong foundation to continue this type of financial return. So we have such a high quality lending book that is backing so much of this growth. And with EQ Bank growing strongly, there's so much more potential to lower our cost of deposits, and really just the quality of the deposits on EQ Bank is so phenomenal for the business that I think EQ Bank will continue to be a strong, like shining star in our future for Equitable overall. We also have just had so much success with diversification of our lending businesses. So we now have over 12 business lines, 5 in personal, 7 in commercial, and we've doubled our sources of funding. And so just the fundamentals of the bank continue to improve and our position gets stronger and stronger. So there's a lot to be excited about. Even on the EQ Bank side, as I mentioned, we're just about to launch into small business. So if you combine our purpose of driving change in Canadian banking to enrich people's lives, our strong financial footing and foundation to support that innovation. And then I sincerely believe that we have the best team in the business. The talent at Equitable is just par none. And you combine all 3 of those things, and we're just set up for so much growth. And I think the most important thing is that we're really going to drive innovation and make people's lives better.
Incredible. Well, thank you for sharing all of these things. I'm so excited for the future of Equitable. I really appreciate your time. Amazing conversation, and I can tell you, on behalf of our investing community, they will find this very, very valuable. So thank you. I'm a happy customer, happy shareholder, and I know my capital's in great hands. And I'm very proud to keep being a cheerleader on the sidelines for the bank and keep doing what I can to keep raising awareness about this awesome business. So yeah, thank you so much for this conversation. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the support. Looking forward to having more of your listeners join the EQ Bank family.
Fantastic. Okay, we're now a few hours after the conversation, the late hours of Thursday night. Now I've had time to digest this talk, and I want to share a few thoughts, like a post-conversation debrief. Firstly, wow, I'm just stoked to have been able to have this conversation. In my mind, again, this shows EQB's willingness to do things a little differently, you know? I mean, I'm not the Globe and Mail or the Toronto Star or anything like that, so it's really refreshing to see senior leaders from such a high caliber company be willing to come on a show like this and interact with us retail shareholders. So I really, really appreciated that. So Mahima, if you're listening, thank you again so much for making the time. I'm really grateful. And shout out to everyone else behind the scenes who helped make this happen, you know. I'm also grateful for Michelle, Maggie, and Rashmi. Thank you for, facilitating and making this happen in such a, smooth and seamless way. Really appreciated that. Now, in terms of takeaways, during the conversation, my brain, like the wheels in my head were turning a lot. I was like, oh, interesting. This part about the branch versus branchless banks, I mean, as you guys know, like all of you listening here, because we talk about this all the time, right, on Twitter. I've got a lot of you saying, a bank cannot be a real bank if it doesn't have branches and all that. I'm sorry to say, I think that Mahima made a very, very compelling point against that argument. I mean, the idea that, firstly, if you don't have branches, it's actually great for expenses. You get to save money. And if you're a great bank, which EQB is, you actually give that money back to the people. That's, firstly, one great reason not to have branches. But the other thing, too, is because they don't have the branch, they have to make that extra effort to have really stellar customer service, right? And that makes sense, right? So because they have that great customer service, they end up doing a lot more in terms of building that trust with the people. I genuinely do believe that. You know what? This is one of those things, you know, when you know something, but you don't really have it all thought out in your head. I think that's how it was for me for that specific point. But now, when I heard her say that, I was like, oh, wow, this all makes sense. So, you know, you can have a branch, but then if that means you're getting scammed because you have to pay all kinds of fees, and they'll have you wait in the branch for like 2 hours while they shuffle papers around and try to find a solution to your problem and then tell you, I'm sorry, I can't help you, right? Is that really worth it compared to having a bank that has no branch, but they pick up the phone within 20 seconds, which I was so shocked when she said that, like, wow, that's incredible, right? So they do that, and you know, you have no fees and you have all the best products. I mean, come on, to me, there's no comparison. So obviously, I think the EQ model is better. I liked it anyway, but now after this conversation, I'm like, wow, yeah, that, again, it's 100% better. So that was a really cool takeaway in my mind. And the other one was when we talked about the products, I actually felt really bad for a second. I was like, damn, I just came back from Portugal, literally like last week. I'm still jet lagged. And I don't have an EQ Bank card, unfortunately. And had I known this thing about being charged only the spot rate instead of having this extra 1 or 2% that every bank does, and in my stupid mind thought, well, EQ probably does too, right? Well, obviously, no. She just said they don't do that. So what's the first thing you think I went and did right after this conversation? I literally just went on the app and I ordered my EQ Bank card. Because I didn't have one, but now I can't wait on my next trip to use it. That was honestly splendid. I didn't know about that, but yeah. I wish I'd known earlier. And then the last takeaway or things I'd like to mention here is, and obviously, I should have maybe said this at the start of the episode, but obviously nothing is financial advice. We're not making any forward-looking statements, and I'm not telling anyone what to do with their investments. I'm just telling you what I do. But for myself, I already had that strong conviction in the stock anyway. That's why it's one of my Fantastic Five, like I said. But I really think EQB is one of those very rare businesses that is able to do great for shareholders and for customers at the same time. It's so rare nowadays. And you can tell that they really believe in their purpose. And it's just making Canada a better country, honestly, in my opinion. So, I couldn't be prouder to be a shareholder. And I think it'll turn out to be a good financial decision too. Now, anyway, my friends, this been a lot of work to prepare for this, so if you enjoyed it, I sure do hope that you can give us a 5-star, and give me your feedback. Any thoughts, please do let me know, because I'd love to do something like this again. And as always, thank you so much for listening to the Newcomer Investor Channel, and I look forward to connecting again with you soon.